All right. Well, guys, thanks very much and welcome to this update on the new HUBB platform. I hope everybody is doing well. And as I said, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a long time. Thanks for taking some time out of your day or your evening, wherever you are. My name is JP Drysdale. I'm the CEO and the original founder of HUBB. And boy, hasn't it been a long time. I'm really pleased to be back with the business. We originally kicked things off with HUBB in 1998. So anyway, we can have a brief chat about some of that history. But what we're really here to hear about is the new HUBB platform, and more specifically, an update on the upcoming beta program. So let me show you what we're going to talk about tonight. So first of all, I thought it'd be worthwhile just to spend a little bit of time on what's happening with HUBB, because it has been a long time. Secondly, an explanation of the social investment community. That concept is actually really key to what we're planning to do with the new platform. So I'm excited to be able to talk about that. Also looking forward to giving you a preview of the new HUBB platform itself. And that is exciting because this is the first time that we're showing the new platform outside of any of the actual developers and the small group of traders that have been working with us. And then finally, we'll give you our plans on the beta access and making that available and do some Q&A. Now, before I go ahead and do anything else, I am going to bring in Tony Stankowski. Tony is our COO at HUBB, and he's been my business partner in crime for many, many years. Tony, are you there?
Sure I am, JP. Thanks for the introduction. As you mentioned, this is really exciting for us and a major milestone. So really looking forward to sharing the good news with everyone today.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it has been a long time. I remember, I'll say back in the day, I used to have the opportunity to get out to seminars and meet with people. But really, since 2011, when Schwab took over the business, it's been almost radio silence. And coming back to the business and having a look at the software and the technology, it's almost been like a bit of a time capsule. Really, there's been very, very little development, no new features, very minimal advancement of the platform. And so it's been really, really exciting to kind of pick up the reins again and re-envision what we can do. For myself, when Schwab took over the business, I ended up running Charles Schwab's business in Australia, which was a little bit of a misadventure, to be honest. They kicked off with all of this enthusiasm, and then as interest rates changed in the US and they had other business opportunities, they kind of decided they didn't want to be in the market. And I know you had quite a journey there as well, Tony. What were you doing at Schwab over all those years?
Yeah, at Schwab, I was working with their international services team. So I was working on things like the technology around account opening for international investors, and some of the tax challenges, let's say, in foreign investors opening broking accounts in a US firm. So I won't bore you with all that detail, but there was a lot of work, and I was working with the UK team, Hong Kong, Singapore, and North America as well.
Yeah, look, actually, I think that's kind of an important point about what we're bringing back to the business, because we've been fortunate enough in restarting the business to be able to recruit a lot of people that used to work with us, but have had all of this other experience. So we've got guys that have been building blockchain applications, building AI, building trading platforms. And I think when you have a look at, I guess, what I think is quite ambitious for the new platform, you can kind of see where we're bringing all of that expertise to bear. The other thing, before we jump into it, just a couple of housekeeping notes. I should apologize. I think there was some confusion. We confused the timing on the webinar tonight. So I apologize if that caught anybody off guard. I think it was set for 8 p.m., which is 8 p.m. In US Eastern Standard Time and 12 a.m. here. And I think we got that wrong initially. So my apologies. On the Q&A, Tony, I know we've got it at the end of the list here, but please feel free to drop any comments or any Q&A into the Zoom interface that you've got there. And Tony, if you don't mind to monitor and let us know if there's any questions, we can take those as we're going and talk about what's relevant that's on the screen at that time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And we've already got a couple of questions coming through that I'll hold until you start presenting the platform, and then I'll put that through.
Absolutely. And a couple of other things, a couple of other bits of news on what's been happening with HUBB. I did also want to acknowledge Tom Scollin, because while Tony and I were extricating ourselves from Schwab, Tom stepped in and took over the day-to-day running of HUBB and did a great job. And he's still director of the business and still there. He might even be online, I'm not sure. But just wanted to say thanks to Tom. I know a lot of you guys know Tom. Talking of Tom's, the other news that we announced in December was that Tom Gentile has joined us as a partner. And, that's also really, really exciting. Tom, I don't have to tell most of you guys, has had a very long and storied career in the financial markets and options in particular. He's become a bit of a crypto guy as well. So we're really excited to integrate his platform into what we're doing and bring all of his tools and all of the new stuff for our HUBB users going forward. And one of the other things, I was just looking at some of the names there. I'd just be interested, if you can, drop in the chat if you've been a HUBB client for a long time, because there's a couple of people there that I think may have been clients with us for 15, 16 years. And I should acknowledge also up front, all of you guys that have stuck with the platform, I'll say, while it's been in the wilderness. Yeah, so Zach's just confirmed he's been there 6 years. I thought I recognised your name. Amazing. So, excellent to have you guys. And I'm looking forward to sort of reinvigorating what we're doing and hopefully maybe delivering on that promise that I felt we had in the early 2000s before a number of transactions sort of took over the business. But yeah, so Stephen's saying that he's been with us for nearly 20 years, and I don't doubt it. Stephen, my appreciation, it's just great to have loyal customers like you guys. Hakeem is saying he's had Profit Source since 2008. So yeah, amazing. And I think that kind of speaks to, I guess, the quality of some of the tools that you guys are using. And I'm really hopeful that with what we're doing here, we can not only sort of say to you, hey, we're bringing a new platform forward, but also enroll you guys in this beta and get the feedback from all you guys that are long-term users, because it is going to be a long process. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. There's a lot to do, and we won't be able to come out of the gate on day one with every feature turned on that we'd like to have. It's going to be a runway of probably 18 months. But the exciting thing about that is that there'll be new features coming out regularly, and that's something to look forward to. So moving on, what I might do is, I thought I'd throw this one in for you, Tony. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah, I do.
You guys that were dealing with us 20 years ago or so, this was our literal first server room in about 1998. I remember, Tony, you building that by hand.
Yeah, that was a long time ago now. We have come some way since then, which is good to know.
I think, what were they? They were 386 towers running Microsoft or something.
486 running NT server from memory.
So there you go. I mean, pretty hilarious. But this is early days of the internet, obviously, and I guess we've now had the experience of not only building things like this from the ground up, but running big production areas and data centers and all sorts of things. At some point in the mid-2000s, HUBB had nearly 200 employees. And while we're not sort of trying to build an empire and do that, we have made the investment to bring the resources. So we'll be able to start building that up and bring those sorts of, staff resources again. But anyway, just a little bit of fun there. All right, so disrupting social investing. What I'm going to do here is just give you a little bit of an understanding about why we think that this is an important thing to include in the platform. And how this came to be was that when we started looking at rebuilding the platform, we said we're going to have to build this from the ground up. So pretty much all of the code that has been built that is a thick client that runs on Windows has to be thrown away. If we're going to make this run in browsers on all the platforms, be mobile friendly, we've got to start from the ground up. And so rather than just building the same thing again, but in a new technology, we were looking around and we felt that social investing just had an unfulfilled promise. If you look at the experience of social investing at the moment, our view is that it's the Wild West. Yes, there's all sorts of platforms and there's chat rooms and what have you, but at the end of the day, that's all they are. Whether you go on Twitter or StockTwits or Reddit or Facebook groups, whatever it might be, you get in there and you get to having a discussion or an argument with people. You really can't tell who they are. You don't know their intentions. You don't know if they're trying to, let's say, get a stock running or promote a crypto scam. And so what should be an environment where we can all get on together and talk about stocks and come out with a hive mind of a better decision or better information is really just not ever been achieved as far as we can see. There's some reasonable attempts, but this is why we think we're going to be able to do something a little bit different. So as I've said here on this slide, HUBB is a social investing platform generated trusted investment ideas and signals across exchange traded assets. So we've been doing signals for a long time, but the trusted ideas is something new. And this is how we think that we're going to be able to achieve it. So on the left-hand side of the screen, if you've got that problem, social investing platforms have the problem is that they're unreliable and they're untrustworthy. But we believe that with the right underpinning for a community, we're going to be able to do something that can move the needle in the right direction. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that you have the opportunity to verify your identity. And obviously there's a lot of discussion around this kind of point with Elon Musk and Twitter, but what we're going to give you the opportunity to do is the same as when you are opening a brokerage account, you validate your identity so that you're going to be able to limit, if you wish, the ideas and the people that you're interacting with to people that we know are not bots, they're not bad actors, they're not people trying to run a scam. The second thing that we're doing is displaying a community consensus, and we'll show you the platform in a moment. So you're going to be able to express an idea, unlike a chat room, because it's built into the analytics platform. You can say, I believe that this symbol will move to this price in this time, and then everybody can agree or disagree. So all of the argument becomes about a specific idea. And thirdly, and probably most importantly, we're going to use the performance track record of every individual. So as you start to rate other people's ideas and you start to propose your own ideas on the platform, the AI is going to be sitting underneath that, learning and watching. And so in the fullness of time, and this will take a bit of time, obviously AIs don't work until we have big data to feed them. And that's why we need to have this social aspect to the platform and why we're really relying on enrolling, particularly you guys, our existing or current users, to be a seed to get that data in there for the AI. But the AI will start to learn and it will be able to give a rating on risk. So it's going to be looking and saying, okay, XYZ person has proposed this idea. Let's have a look at all of the people that are voting on it and their individual track records, not only just overall, but it can look and see what is your track record in a particular asset or a particular asset class, a sector, a time frame, a direction, a certain type of strategy, and it'll build a picture. And we're not trying to pull out the ideas and say, here are the ideas that will go to the moon. Rather, we're trying to say, here are the ideas that are less risky. So it's really an exercise, hopefully, in building an environment where people who are trying to learn to trade, trying to learn to invest, can come along, put an idea in and get a sense whether or not what they've heard somewhere else or what they're proposing is a reasonable idea. That's the basis of what we're trying to do. So moving forward from there, why don't we jump into the platform? I don't know if there's any questions or anything at this point, Tony, but I know I'm doing a lot of speaking and let me know if
you're doing great. There's nothing to jump into just yet. I've got a couple of questions from Ralph I'm sitting on, but I'll introduce those in a second. In the chat, just plenty of people talking about how long they've been with HUBB. So, we greatly appreciate that, guys.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's bring the platform up here. So I'm going to log in. And so this is the new HUBB platform. You'll notice that it looks like contemporary trading platforms. Obviously, charting is central. We've got various different chart controls, which we'll talk about in a moment. We've got the watch list or quote list on the side, and we've also got a social feed, which is kind of a mini summary feed, which we'll talk about in a moment. So first and foremost, let's just talk about the charting. I just wanted to highlight that the charting is fully featured. So, you've got all of the different types of bar charts, candle charts, lines, mountains, steps, everything that you would anticipate, particularly, in a HUBB platform. We'll leave it on candle because I think that's a little easier to see. The other thing is periodicity. So what I'm going to do is just go over here for a moment and go to crypto, which will be trading more actively than anything else at the moment. So this is a chart of Bitcoin. And you'll notice I can go right down to a 1 minute, 3 minute chart. So I can bring up a 15-minute chart. It's all running live. You can see the quote feed updating. And so unlike the old platform, it's multi OS, so it'll run on any, it doesn't need to be limited to Windows like the old platform. It'll run in an iPad. We will be doing mobile versions, so the mobile experience needs to be optimized, and ultimately we'll release an app, which won't be too far away. But it's really nice to start having all of these features. And so, for example, now I can hit the Elliott Wave button, and I've got an Elliott Wave count running real time on my 15-minute chart. And we can see Bitcoin looks like it's just completed a 5-way down, so maybe due for a slight correction and a rest there. The other thing that I thought was worthwhile pointing out is just the number of tools and indicators that we've been able to provide in the first release. So we've got all sorts of tools, line tools. We haven't added in everything that's in the original platform yet. We're still working on that, but you've got a bunch of things to get started with, and you'll notice that you can make them your favorites, and that gives you immediate access to them over here. So that feature was something that people seem to really appreciate in the original platform. And I can also access studies from here. So we've got so many studies in terms of indicators. Again, you can favorite them. We've got everything that was in the original platform, plus quite a bunch of new stuff as well. So it's first out of the box, I think, reasonably fully featured. I don't know if there's any questions around that stuff, Tony.
Not really. I think the one point I just wanted to re-emphasize is the thin client. We can access this platform from an internet browser. So those among us that use Macs that are also running Parallels or something like that to run a Windows OS, Microsoft OS, that's not going to be required anymore. So that's really good news. I've got a couple of questions with regards to data, SITM, and AI trade suggestions. So
why don't we jump in and take those?
Yeah, okay. Well, let's start at the top with Ralph. Ralph's first question is, can we get the new data on the original software? So I'm not quite sure. Perhaps he's asking whether we can get real-time data on the original software. I'm not quite sure if you can interpret that differently. Ralph,
Sure.
Maybe you want to expand?
Yeah, no, look, Ralph, unfortunately, and we'll talk about the data structure in a moment, the plan is not to try and feed new data into the old software. We will keep the old software going with the same data for the meantime. So there's no immediate plans to turn off the old software, but we're not able to, at this point, provide access to it by real-time access, for example, or anything like that. And we can explain why when we get to the data structure.
Okay, so the second question from Ralph is, when will SITM, so safety in the market products, be added?
Don't have a time frame on that yet. We've been speaking with Di, and what we've decided is that once we've got our first release out and we're running, then we'll start to look at what needs to be included and how to enact the safety in the market. But again, the old product will continue to run without interruption well beyond the SITM tools being added into here in whatever form that takes.
Okay, thanks for that. Next one from Stephen. With the AI trade suggestions, do they consist of implementing a trade and suggesting stop losses as part of the trade?
There's a range of different services planned, and I'll characterize that from, they could be ideas that you find from other colleagues in the community that the AI is given a rating on, to the AI rating stocks for investment purposes, to the AI rating short-term trades. And we've built some of that, that was a big part of the R&D. As to whether or not we will be actually suggesting stop losses over and above those that you'll be able to implement into the system, probably not. So whatever trading system that you're doing and the type of trading stops that you want to do, you'll be able to implement on the system. But it's not like a publication or an alert service in that sense that we're trying to feed trades. We're trying to feed signals that will allow you to create trades. We are also facilitating a lot of other creators, though, who may offer those services on the platform over and above the basic services, if that makes sense.
Okay, great. Thanks, JP. We've got a couple of more here. You want to keep
Yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So Ralph just clarified. He's asking, with regards to the data on the old platform, can we get the new crypto data on the old platform?
That is probably
yeah.
possible. That's probably a yes. Because all we'll need to do is add the end of day crypto data into the older platform. So that's probably a yes.
Correct. Okay. I have a question from Ben here in the chat. Do the charts match Integrated Investor in its Elliott wave and scanning capabilities?
Yes. In the Elliott wave capabilities, 100%. What we're doing is setting the old software as a benchmark. However, we think we've learned a thing or two, and particularly with the AI, we are able to, I think, provide better outcomes, improved outcomes with the Elliott wave. So we'll have the classic Elliott wave count on there to begin with, but over time, we've got some enhancements, and we'll give users the option of using the classic or using the enhanced.
Okay, we have a question from Lindsay. Will there be the ability to backtest systems?
Yes, is the short answer. It won't be out of the box. The scanning engine is something that we've spent a lot of time designing, and it's not something that I'm able to demo in this beta, but we've really tried to give you as much functionality as possible without the need to code. We think there's plenty of very system trading oriented platforms that cater for people who want to code, but what we're looking to do is provide an interface that's much more intuitive and provides a high degree of functionality for people who aren't coding. And so that's where we've gone. And obviously with things like GPT chat these days, in the not too distant future, it seems like you'll just be able to ask the AI to test a system of whatever for you, or build it through speaking to the interface. So we're trying to build our technology in anticipation of that functionality in the not too distant future.
Okay, a question from Steve Slade. He's saying that the beauty of HUBB for him is the historical data, especially futures. Will this still be accessible online? He's used it since he first bought the original DataLink 1.0.
Wow. DataLink 1.0. That's a blast from the past. Yeah, short answer, yes. For the longest time, we've had a partnership with Reuters, which have become Reuters Thomson, which then became Refinitiv, which is now part of the London Stock Exchange Group. But either way you look at it, they're a very large data company. And so we are again partnering with them, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Before we go further in this platform demo, I'll do that, and you'll see that we think we're going to have second to none data. It might take a little while to get it all online, but we've got a pretty ambitious plan to make sure that you guys have everything that you need.
Okay, I'll just finish on this last question in the chat from Ben. Does Integrated Investor support real-time data? If so, from whom? So that's a question about the legacy software.
So this is something that got caught up with Schwab. What real-time data used to be available was from eSignal, but Schwab turned that off. And then the only way that you could access real-time data is through a Schwab brokerage account. But some years ago, they started changing the brokerage accounts that you could open that would support that real-time data API. So the long and the short of it is, if you're a new client, you can't get real-time data into the old platform. If you're an old client with a Schwab account that was created during that time, they will turn that API on for you, and you can get real-time data into the old platform. So it's a pretty annoying situation from us, because we have a lot of co-clients, but from Schwab's point of view, I guess it's a very old legacy API that they don't want to support anymore. And obviously, from our point of view, it makes more sense for us to be investing our time and efforts into building this wonderful new platform rather than trying to bootstrap something into the old one. So that's just kind of where things are at.
And that's pretty much it on the question. So if I've missed anything, guys, if you could just put it in the Q&A window, then I'll raise that.
All right, great. Well, I might just quickly flick back to this presentation. I just wanted to show everyone this slide for a minute. With the new Hub platform, there's kind of 4 elements that come together. And the first is the analytics platform. And we were just looking at the analytics platforms, the charting, etc. Then there's the social networking aspect of it. And we'll look at that in a moment. Underlying that, there's the real-time data and the crowd-driven AI. Now, we've spent a huge amount of time on the analytics and the social, and we've got good trajectories in terms of our development pathways for those going forward. We've also put the base level of the crowd-driven AI together, and it undersits the platform already. But until we start getting a lot of data from users in, it's not going to develop too quickly. As you'd understand with AI, as it gets the data, it will evolve and develop, and we'll refine that then. So the big piece that we're working on at the moment, I'm sorry, I clicked the wrong button, is this real-time data environment. And to explain that, we're partnering with Refinitiv, which, as I said, is part of the London Stock Exchange Group. And they are building us a facility in a Google Cloud project. So basically, we have a Google Cloud project with Refinitiv pumping in over 100 global exchanges. You can see there, I've said all of the multiple asset classes, the various other real-time capabilities. So in that environment where the data is coming into is where all of our screening and scanning functionality will be built. And so you will be able to run the scans the way you can now. But the way I like to explain it is, if you're running a scan, you'll be able to see when it was last run. And it's a bit like looking for somebody's location on Apple Maps or something like that. You can see somebody was at this location an hour ago, and then you can hit refresh and you get an updated position. So at that point on our system, you'll be able to say, oh, that was the results an hour ago. I want to refresh and get current results on the scans rather than waiting to end of day. So it's really, really powerful. It'll allow you to do live alerting and all these things. So at the moment, the Refinitiv believe that they'll deliver that for us towards the end of March. And that allows us to complete our development on top of that. So that's the big data piece. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add on that, Tony, or if there's any other questions.
Let me just have a look here. No, that's it. We did have one question just clarifying that real-time data from Richard, whether real-time data will be available on the new platform, and you've just answered that question. So that's it for now.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just switch back here to the platform. So Richard, I go back to this cryptocurrency list because the cryptocurrencies we've already linked up. So if I look at Bitcoin again, for example, you can see those prices are updating in real time. And as soon as we've got that facility from Refinitiv and everything else is plugged in, the whole platform's ready to run real time, not just the charts, but all the social ideas and scanning and everything else. So while we're talking about social, let's take a look at that. I'm just going to move my image out of my own way here.
JP, just while you're doing that, we've just had a question from Sam real quick. Will a ruler be integrated in the online platform so we can measure time and price, as I believe this was missing from the offline platform?
All I'd say to that is 100%. If you guys have questions or suggestions on features, we're happy to implement them. Obviously, there's going to be a long list, and you can see here for beta testers on the screen, we've got a beta feedback capability, which allows you to report all sorts of issues and capture images and record videos of the problem that you're having, so you can submit it to the software, and equally you can submit requests for features. Once we get through our basic feature build, then our intention is to take, requests and votes from the community to, let's say, guide the direction of the new features that we'll be implementing. It's really, the majority vote for the most part until we get the whole thing built up. I hope that makes sense.
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to just come back to a quote list with some stocks here, and maybe we'll have a look at Google. And one of the things that we've talked about is ideas. So I am really interested in ideas that other people might have for a stock or for a market, and I want to vote on them. But first of all, let's just institute the case where I have an idea. And I thought this was interesting. You guys would know that we do a lot of work with Rob Roy over at Elliott Wave Options, and he uses our software. I was watching his Friday market update on the US market. And in this video, he suggested that USO might go up to $80 based on not breaking down too far below this 70 level. So let's just say that we think that's an interesting idea that we got from this video. So I'm going to go across to USO and open up USO. And I came in before and I added a chart. So this was where Rob thinks that the market's going to go to. And he's a Elliott Wave guy, so we'll put Elliott Wave on the chart. And he's also an ADX guy, so we'll put ADX on the chart. So what I can do is say a new idea, create an idea. Do I want to include the chart? Yes. So now I'm going to say USO to retrace to previous wave 4, and I'll say per Rob. So his level target was 80, so we'll put a target of 80, and I'm going to give it a month. I think that can happen in a month. And by the way, anybody looking for more details on Rob's analysis can review this video. So I can also post the video or a tweet into that idea, and then I can confirm that and post it to the community and publish it to the community. And so now what we'll see, I'm just going to move that out of my way, is if I look at ideas for this chart, there's my idea, and actually Gary's put an idea in as well. So Gary agrees with me. So here is the idea that I just put in. I believe that this market's going to go to here. And this is the idea that Gary put in. He thinks it's going to go to the opposite direction. And that's what makes a market. Now, if I want to go in and have a look at that idea, and by the way, Tony, if you're online, oh, somebody's already voted on that one. So somebody agrees with me. But you can see here, here's the original idea. As the market starts trading, we'll see the status of it and see how it's performing. As people start voting on it, we'll see the consensus. And now we've got 2 votes on it. And as people, as the AI starts to see who's voting on it, we'll start to get a trust rank on it. And over in this part, we can discuss the idea. So somebody can come in and reply to my idea just the way you can on any social media and discuss that particular trade, give their opinion, add their own charts. And so in this way, we're hoping that not only we're going to train the AI, but we will be able to also deliver some pretty good outcomes for people. So if you follow that idea, this is a page where I can come and see a whole bunch of ideas. So if I was interested, and I'll just move my controls for Zoom again. So if I'm interested in, let's say, just bullish ideas on ETFs, there's the ideas that are on the platform that are bullish on ETFs. So I can come in and I can have a look at this idea that Gary's put in and say, well, you know what, Gary, I disagree with your idea. And, I'll just say, this is a test comment, but I can post that idea. Now, this means that there's so many ways that I can find ideas. We can start to organize ourselves into groups. You can message individual users, all the things that you would expect on a social media platform. The other thing is that the AI starts to watch and categorize all the ideas. So we have other ideas, other ways to find the ideas. So what's trending, all these ideas on China or Elliott Wave ideas. And so there's a whole host of information that we're going to be able to take out of this. So I don't know if there's any more questions on that. I don't want to spend a huge amount of time, just give everybody a sense of how it works. But that's kind of, the intention with the platform and going forward. Is there any other questions on that, Tony?
No questions on the ideas front, JP. Okay,
well, I'd be interested to get people's initial thoughts, if not questions, just to, are they interested in being involved? Is that the sort of thing that appeals? Will they steer clear of that and just do their own analysis? We've had all kinds of feedback from people, but yeah, interested to hear people's thoughts when you get a chance to drop them in the comments. So let's talk about the beta access. So as I said, we're presently conducting beta with a small group of internal traders, and all going well, particularly around that piece of Refinitiv giving us the data, we anticipate getting a beta out to everybody in April. Now, if for whatever reason the functionality around the data looks like it's going to be protracted or delayed, we may consider just opening it up as it is at the moment, which would be end of day data, just, let's say earlier in March, so that we can start to get some feedback and people using it. The other thing that I've said to note there is that we'll be adding people in groups. It'll probably be, a couple of hundred people, and then we'll move it into, more of the thousands. But, we're just going to do it as first come, first serve. So whoever got onto that beta list, you'll be invited pretty shortly. And if you're not on the beta list, if you go to the website at hubb.com, you'll be able to find a way to register for the beta list and get yourself on there. So I think that was the substance of the things we wanted to cover tonight, Tony. Just to keep it.
I've got some more comments and questions here. So Stephen's comment sounds amazing, looking to be involved for sure, which is fantastic. And that's a lot of the feedback that we're receiving outside of this call. A question about the ideas from Stephen as well. Should a trade suggestion start to go against the initial thesis, can the trade be closed early, the trade idea?
Yes, and actually that's a great question, and thanks very much for that, because what we've done is we spent an inordinate amount of time thinking about how to manage the social ideas, because there are leaderboards, and there'll be it'll be very competitive. There'll be rewards and competitions and so on and so forth, Hall of Fame for different things. But what we wanted to do was to try and make the ideas valuable, is reward people for managing them. So the same way you need to manage a trade, if you put an idea in and then the reason, the rationale behind that trade changes for whatever reason, an external event or the chart pattern doesn't eventuate the way you thought it would, we want you to come in and say, I no longer have this view and I don't think it's going to hit the target. And the same can be done if you're voting on other people's ideas. You can come in and vote on an idea and agree with it, and then you can come back and change your opinion. And each one of those actions will contribute to your score. So your score in terms of the leaderboard will obviously reward being correct on ideas, but it will also reward you for reversing your position if you think an idea is no longer valid. So yes, absolutely. We want you to manage those and update people. We want you to come and say, hey, I proposed this idea, because some of the ideas might be short term. They might be just for next week. Some of them might be for several years away. You have a long-term view about investing. And so there's different leaderboards for traders and investors. There's different leaderboards for different asset classes, different timeframes. So we're hoping to really engage. And what we know is that there are people that are out there that may be ex-industry, ex-government, that are very, very good traders and investors and are very expert on their particular topic of expertise. And so if we can find those people and enroll them, and the AI can look at their track records and identify them and start to, let's say, elevate their content, we believe that we'll really get some value out of this community, rather than having a rabble of argument, which I think a lot of other chat rooms devolve into. So yeah, great question. Thank you.
So JP, I've got a similar question asked from Sam and an anonymous attendee. So I'll start with Sam first. When transitioning to the new online system from the old offline one, will we be able to export our studies such as GAN lines, time counts, etc., to the online platform? And then similarly, the anonymous attendee has asked, can legacy software quote lists and scans be able to be imported into the new platform?
The first question, I think, relates to the drawing tools, so counts and timelines, and that's probably going to be unlikely. I'll say no, because it's just a complete new technology from the ground up. It's not like we're upgrading from one version of Microsoft Word or Excel to the next. This is, we've thrown the old software away and we've started again. So it's highly unlikely that any of the way in which the old tools are managed within that software would be able to be easily plugged into the new one. When it comes to scans and lists, quote lists, etc., that's probably not a problem, because we can output the lists of symbols and move those across. The scans may be a little bit more difficult because we've enhanced quite significantly the way the scans work. So I can't promise that, but certainly any quote lists or other kind of lists of symbols would be manageable.
I have a question. Thanks for that, JP. I have a question from Ben. Will you be showing the option system tonight? He hopes so.
Look, I'll jump in and I'll give you a brief preview. We've only implemented a small amount of the options system just because until we have the full data system, it's not worth us doing all of the work. So we have an interface, but we haven't turned it on. But what I can do is just show you the option chains are going to sit under the main chart here. And what you'll be able to do, for example, is come in and look at an option chain. You'll be able to build a strategy in there. So, I could build a spread by clicking on the, and what will happen is that you will see the strategy details over here to the right of the screen, including risk curves and the ability to adjust that. So it'll all be on one screen. And the intention is that the strikes and other information related to the trade will also sit up here on the chart as well. So you'll have a risk curve, strategy information down here, and a strike information up on the screen. So I hope that can be satisfactory. I can't really demonstrate much more than the basic chart function, option functionality at the moment.
Yeah, but would it be safe to say, JP, that all the functionality within Option Gear will be included in this platform ultimately? So including the risk graphs, obviously, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I think, we can all agree that Option Gear was very, very powerful, but it was cumbersome to use. It was kind of like having Microsoft Excel and going, what do I do to write a formula? It can do a lot of stuff. So what we're trying to do here is to make a much more intuitive interface, and it will give you all of those outcomes. And I think that's also where integrating Tom's tools and getting all the insights from their users and how they like to trade options is really, really valuable. I think we'll come out with something that people will be really excited about.
Great. So Ralph has asked a question about AI. Is the AI going to improve the Elliott wave counts?
Yes, is the short answer. So that is one of the projects that we have going. So what we are endeavoring to do is to use the crowd-driven AI to allow you guys to educate the AI on Elliott, and not just Elliott, but all chart patterns. So for example, a triangle, we anticipate that there'll be a section of the software where you can say, help train the AI, and it'll show you charts with pictures of triangles, and you'll rate them on how good you think that triangle is, and the AI will learn over time. And so ultimately, then the AI should be able to tell us, here's a bunch of triangles, and here's the ones that are breaking out. And so you can run a scan on breakout triangles. You can do the same with flags, pennants, heads and shoulders. And so that is definitely part of how we're trying to use the crowd-driven AI to generate AI-based signals. Again, it's not going to all be delivered on day one. There's a long trajectory, but that is absolutely part of the plan.
Great. I've got two more questions and then just a comment at the moment, JP. So first,
and actually, Tony, sorry, just to come back to that. If you are one of Rob Roy's clients at Elliott Wave Options, you will have seen his AI time strategy, and that is where our AI has learnt to pick stocks that are going to drop and trade in a sideways pattern, and then Rob constructs option trades around it. And so it's the exact same thing that we'll be making available to you guys. You'll be able to get those lists of stocks or cryptos that the AI believes will be a triangle or trade sideways or whatever it may be, and construct your own trades around that.
Okay, sorry, great. I'm getting more questions, so we'll keep working our way through it. Lindsay is asking, will I be able to paper trade ideas?
Well, you can paper trade on the platform. On the old platform, we had the walkthrough mode, and that's been implemented. So you can, pick a date in the past and then move through it a bar at a time, and you'll be able to do that with option trades. So the short answer is yes, you'll be able to paper trade by clicking through a day at a time and keeping a P&L as you go. I hope that's what they were asking.
Yeah, no, possibly. Well, I guess we'll hear if there's a follow-on question. Let's see here. I've got a question from Richard. What about updating ticker symbols, etc.? This was really annoying. This often used to have to be done manually. Will that still be the case with the new software?
No, I think, again, with the new data platform that we have, when you're bringing up a symbol, you should just be able to type it in and they'll be added. Part of the partnership with Refinitiv is that we're going a lot deeper than what we did last time. Last time, they would send us big, huge files every day. And I think, Richard, that's probably what you're talking about, where our team would then have to recognize that there was a new symbol and make sure that that was added. And that may have been a delay, of some days even before a new listing was available. Whereas with our new arrangement with Refinitiv, they're responsible for maintaining the whole data platform. So we shouldn't have to experience any delays. As soon as it's available on their feed, it should automatically come up in the software. So, until we've implemented it, and not saying there won't be any teething issues. In reality, these things can take a little while to sort out, but I can't see any reason why that should be a problem.
Steve's asking if we have any comments regarding online backups, location of data banks, EU privacy rules, general security.
That's one maybe for you, Tone, I think.
Well, I was reading that and thinking through. So, ultimately, this data center where we're pulling all this information from and storing it will be located in multiple areas. So I think we're going to be covered there. And obviously, we're going to be complying with any compliance rules, such as the privacy rules from the EU. So I guess wait to hear more from us on that. But we should have everything covered in that respect.
Yeah, in general, we try to be a good corporate citizen. We hold, we're an Australian company. We hold an Australian financial services license, although some people would debate whether we need it or not. We try and go above and beyond to do what is necessary to make sure that the client experience is as good as possible and that we're being a good corporate citizen and doing what the regulators would most ideally have us do. So I think that's probably the best answer there.
What Warren's asking, are we still able to use Gantt charting like swing charts and timeframes? Touched on this previously.
Short answer, yes. Obviously, the safety in the market specific swing charts have some of their own proprietary rules. So when we do the safety in the market part, we will do that. But we already have a basic swing chart in there, which is probably pretty close. So short answer, when we do all the safety in the market, it will be to their standard, or I can guarantee you that they won't give it its approval.
Okay, great. From Peter, will there be an option for calendar days as well as trade days?
I don't know the answer to that. We'll have to get Gary. Guys, I thought if you guys are enjoying this and it's worth our while to continue to do this, we'll do this on a more regular basis. And what we can probably do is we can bring, our lead developer on, or our head AI developer on, so they can answer specific questions with regards to some of those areas. So let us know if that kind of thing is of interest. But I apologize. It's a little bit too technical detail for me to know whether or not there'll be calendar days as well. I would assume for the Gantt stuff, we'll need to make that happen.
Yeah, and Peter, I've taken your details down here, so we'll look into that and shoot you an email or cover it in the next session. Okay, with the symbol search, will you be able to search by name if you are uncertain of the symbol? This is from Cam.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, I've got some comments from Ben here. Good to hear about the reintegration with Tom's tools. Your vision is fantastic and good to see. And then the last question looks from Cam, looks fantastic. How do I know if I'm on the beta list? Was on the website but unable to sign up. Are you able to discuss pricing? So two-part question there.
Well, I hadn't planned to. Sorry, I'm just going to move my Zoom controls here. But let's just have a quick look on the website. So HUBB.com. So if you come over here to sign up, you should be able to just drop your details in to join the beta program. If you think you've done it and you're not sure, you could definitely send a request to support just to confirm that you're on it. But if you're not, that's the way to do it. In terms of pricing, what we're looking to do is be no more expensive than what we are now. The only exception to that will be where there's real-time fees that are levied by the exchange, because obviously that is something that we don't control. But what we're trying to do is to have a very base level of service that may be, let's say less than $20 or around $20 a month, that will allow people to participate in the community. And then an upgrade from there would be a series of longer term focused signals and stock ratings. So I guess if you think about, for those that are familiar with value gain or integrated investor, think about the expert systems that are in there, but enhanced with AI. And that may be around, $30 per month to add those on, and then going up to about $50 where we are now, which would add in all the shorter term Elliott wave and other trading signals. So that's the intended pricing schedule, obviously, until we get it to market. But what we are anticipating and looking at some of the environment has changed dramatically, and it's not unrealistic that as free users, we'll have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And then a portion of those will want to get the AI ratings and verify themselves. So they'll want a basic plan. There'll be people who are just investors, and they'll be looking for the longer term, growth stocks, dividend stock ratings, those kind of things. And then there'll be people who are more, trading and looking for options and cryptos and all the Elliott wave and all those sorts of things. So we're hoping to have a range, but we're certainly not looking there'll be no upfront fee. And it should be, I guess, in line with the other sorts of offerings of that ilk that are out there. Well, Tony, that's all that I had to cover, unless there's any other information.
Nothing from my perspective, JP. I think we've covered most things at a high level, which is great.
All right. Well, I'll thank you, everybody. It was a great session, great questions. Particularly exciting from my point of view to re-engage with you guys. Zach, I can't believe you've been around 20 years. All that time we were away and we're back, and you've still been supporting us. So it's fantastic. Looking forward to rolling this out. Looking forward to getting you guys as part of the community and really leveraging all the time that you guys have put in to build something pretty amazing, hopefully over the next couple of years. So thanks very much. Thanks, Tone, for your assistance.
Thank you, JP.
And I'll end it there.